So welcome to the video where we're going to talk through adding in, for me, a white border, just single crochet all the way along. The corner to corner stitch has kind of not the nicest edging, so I prefer to at least do a single crochet border, if not more. The goal is going to be to kind of look similar to these little guys that are going to be going around the middle of the blanket. So what you'll notice when you're looking at your corner to corner stitches is that you've got clusters that are going up and down, and then you've also got some clusters that are going side to side, depending on where we were in that kind of staircase pattern. For ones like this, where you're going up and down, I prefer to do 1, 2, 3 single crochets. You can really easily see those double crochets vertically that we did. So I prefer to do 3 in this chunk, and then in the chunk that's next to it, these are the sideways ones. So you're looking at the side of double crochets, which are 2 stitches tall. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in here. And that's kind of the basic gist of what we're going to be doing. But I just wanted to talk through that just so you could kind of think about that and hear it prior to continuing on. So I'm going to attach my yarn. I'm just going to go under that first stitch right here on the corner. Got those nice vertical double crochets, so it's easy to see. I'm just going to knot it twice. I prefer knotting just because it gives you sturdier attachments in my mind. I go back into that stitch. I'm going to grab this, pull it under, grab the yarn, pull it through, and it's just going to make a loop. And now I'm going to actually start doing that single crochet border. So as I'm doing it, I'm going to eventually be going on top of that tail, and I'm going to be going on top of this white tail. So I'm going to try and keep that in mind. So I'm going to first do a single crochet. So into that stitch, right? Grab the yarn, pull it through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay. And as I'm working, I'm going to keep this guy underneath in order to kind of pull it into the work and hide that tail. Okay, next one, I'm going to go into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to continue doing single crochets. Remember, if you need more practice at something like a single crochet, there's lots of YouTube videos that you can just watch a quick refresher. That'll have a slower piece. Last single crochet into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so that was the first vertical, and we're going to switch to a sideways cluster. So remember, for this is 2 stitches wide. And as we're going to go, we're going to make sure to get these guys. Now, there's not a perfect rhyme or reason. I'm just going to kind of grab some of the thread on the sides. I'll try and loops. My recommendation, sorry, I moved off screen. My recommendation is try and get like one of those loops and go through 1 loop if you want to conserve some of that purple, and then go through 1 more over here. These guys are not going to be as precise as you can see. They're going to be a little bit harder to grab. So we've got 2 on that. So you can do it that way. You can see a little bit more of the purple. If you just go around it, you'll hide that purple bit. So those will be the trickiest parts to stitch. The rest of it should be pretty straightforward. Anytime you're in a vertical cluster, it'll be much, much easier. Okay, so continuing on, we've got a vertical cluster, so we're going to just go into the tops of those stitches and single crochet, making sure we're keeping that underneath. So that's 1, 2, and then last one. Okay, 3. So you can see that those are a lot easier, a lot faster to do. And then we're back to a sideways cluster. So remember, these are going to be a little harder to see. And I'm just going to try my best to get under a loop. Yarn over, pull through, and keeping those tails tucked under so that we're crocheting on top. And then I'm just going to do 1 more through a single loop. Okay, so not perfect. Anytime we have these sideways, we're kind of just working into like bits of yarn on the side. This is really similar to when you're doing the border for like a tile. Your top and your bottom are a lot easier to get those stitches. It's those sides that are kind of a little messier, where you're kind of just doing the best that you can. Okay, so now we finished our 2 on our sideways cluster. We're back to a vertical cluster. We're going to do 3. Remember, we're just doing into the top of those stitches. Sometimes they might be a little messier, but generally you can see your stitches pretty easily. Okay, and now we're back to another sideways cluster. So same kind of thing, we're gonna just try and get into that side and at least get one loop. This conserves seeing some of the purple rather than just going around all the purple on that stitch. Okay, grab another little bit, grab the yarn, pull it through for our single crochet. You can see we've covered up that white thread pretty nicely. My purple thread's longer. If you want to just snip that to make it a little bit shorter, mine's a pretty long thread. I'm just going to snip it a little shorter so it doesn't keep going on and on forever. Okay, and we're going to keep going. So we finished our 2 stitches on our sideways cluster. We're back to a nice vertical cluster where you can really easily see the tops of those stitches. We're just going to go and do 1 single crochet in the top of each of those stitches. And last one. And sometimes you might find one that's like a little messier. That's okay. You just want to try your best to get into that stitch. Remember to keep going on top of your tail. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to just keep doing that all along. Continue as you look. Every single horizontal cluster, you're going to do 2 stitches, trying to grip the edge thread as best you can. And then every time you hit a vertical, you're going to do 3 single crochets, 1 into each of those top stitches. And we're just going to keep doing this forever and ever. When you eventually get to this corner, you're going to want to unpause the video when you get to that corner, and I can walk you guys through how to maneuver around the corner. And then you're going to keep working and pause that video and then unpause it after. And I'll show you just finishing off at the very, very end of our border. Okay, so now we are coming to a corner. So I just wanted to show you guys how to maneuver, because typically once you've got it down, it's just how to adjust for a corner. So I'm at this corner, just about there. I'm at a vertical cluster, so I'm going to do the last 2 single crochets. And what I like to do is, because we're now switching to a sideways, and this one's got to have 2. I've done my single crochet here at that kind of corner stitch. I'm going to do 2 more in the next couple spaces. So I'm just going to kind of grab some yarn there at the end, grab the yarn, pull it through. And I'm just going to do our 2 single crochets just like normal. This one's going to be a little harder, but I'm just going to try and grab a little bit of thread. And then we've got a vertical cluster, so I'm going to do 3 single crochets. So I've got 1, 2, and last one is 3. So really for that corner, we didn't do anything different. We just treated it as a 3 followed by a 2 directly. That 1 stitch that's kind of in the corner is that 3rd one along. And then you just continue going, right? 3 stitches for vertical, 2 stitches for horizontal, trying to grab 1 or 2 pieces of thread as best you can. You're going to do the same thing for corners. So just, stitch as normal. You can add an extra stitch in that corner if you would like to give it more of a point to that corner. And then I'll check in with you guys once you've made your way all the way around to the beginning and you're ready to tie off. Okay, so I have made it to the very, very end of this single crochet border. We just have a handful of stitches left. We've got our horizontals, so I'm just going to try and get 2 good stitches by going underneath 1 or 2 pieces of yarn, and then I want 1 more good one. Just grabbing as best I can. And then I'm going to do one extra stitch in the same stitch that the original stitch is in, just to kind of finish it off because it's a little off otherwise. Remove my little stitch marker that I had just to remind myself where I started. And then I'm just going to slip stitch in. So right through, grab the yarn, pull through. And then in order to get a little knot, I'm just going to yarn over and pull through one more time. And I'm going to cut a bit of a tail to sew that in. And that makes a little knot. You can also tie an extra knot on top if you are wanting more security. So at this point, I'll kind of zoom up. We have got our single crochet border all around, and this just gives it some stitches that are a little bit more workable, because otherwise it's kind of hard to work with. And then what's going to be really pretty is when we add our border tiles, it's going to have a more seamless look due to having the white yarn on both. Okay, so before we move on to the next video where we're going to attach these and sew or crochet them together depending on your preference, now is a good time if you have some little yarn tails from when you ran out of yarn, or if you had a little knot in your yarn and you had to crochet on top of them. Now's a good time to find those spots where you had to start a new bit of yarn. So I'm just going and trimming all the ends that I tried to crochet on top of, just to make sure I clean up the blanket.
And then once you're satisfied with cleaning everything up with this middle section, our next videos are going to talk about taking those border tiles and crocheting them together, and then crocheting the strips of border tiles onto our blanket to finish her off. I'll see you guys in that next video.